And now it's live with the Dr. Judy WTF.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining in. As some of you might have noticed, I changed the time. I am now on 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I used to be on 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and truthfully, it got a little late and tiresome. So I switched it, and I hope that this is actually a better time. I'm certain it is a better time for the people back east, and I'm hoping it's a good enough time for those on the West Coast and Central Standard Time people as well. And so, thank you for joining in. And this is a call in show, everyone. So, please do call in 323-524-2599. And we are here at the beginning of the year. And I want to get right into it and talk about signs and symptoms of being in a narcissistically abusive relationship. So let's not start with a bunch of psychobabble. Let's just talk plain old down to earth human. How do you feel when you're in a narcissistically abusive relationship? So, in plain and simple language, not good. And why? Why not good? Let's expand on it. How about unsafe? How about used? How about drained? These are some of the concepts we're going to be talking about today. How about gaslit, manipulated, and a general feeling that something's really off here? But the problem usually is that you're way deep into it before you're willing to admit that to yourself. And extricating it is extra hard because there's an addictive quality to it, especially when you have unhealed childhood wounds. So, what does getting into an abusive narcissistic relationship have to do with unhealed childhood wounds? Well, a heck of a lot, because when you are unhealed and you are broken and you hold your parents as the high standard, the high bar, what you're going to do is you're going to look for familiarity, you're going to look for familiarity, you're going to look for something that is a replica of the energy of your family, a system gone wrong, which is my favorite way of describing it. And then when you get into it, it's almost like, I'm home again. How nice, but not nice. And it's nice because it feels familiar, but it's not nice because it's just as painful, if not more, than your original family. So I want to put the mind map up so that you can see it and we can get into the childhood wounds. And specifically, what I want to refer to is the abandonment wounds. So narcissistic wounds have to do with apathy. You're abandoned emotionally, is really what's going on here. Maybe even physically so, but mostly we're talking about parents that lack empathy. So if you look at panel number one, you could see the shadows um, obstructing the light. So there is your light in the background. You are struggling to be the best of your best. You're struggling to feel good. You're struggling to feel safe. You're struggling to think clearly and to relax your body. It's just that the shadows are in your way, blocking your growth, blocking your ability to feel safe, blocking your ability to even cognitively think straight because childhood wounds run interference. So I'm going to go through all of them, but we're going to concentrate on the wound of apathy because that's the one that best describes narcissistic abuse. So, in no particular order, there is physical abuse, there is emotional neglect, name calling, sexual abuse, power and control and manipulation. And then, of course, there is the narcissistic abuse, which is where the parents flip the system, and instead of putting your priorities as number one, it becomes all about them. So now You welcome to the narcissistic system. You are no longer a priority. You're objectified. Whatever you do is in the service of what they need. Your needs are not met. You're not number one because they are number one. Okay, so is any of this sounding familiar? Because this is what it feels like to be in a narcissistic relationship. So, what's missing here? Obviously, what's missing is safety. What's missing is a relaxed amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. It won't relax because you're always walking on eggshells. You're always concerned that the other person is not pleased, which is the same as walking on eggshells, or you're concerned that the other shoe is going to drop and you're not going to please them and they're going to leave, more walking on eggshells. And mainly, there's a sense gut, in your gut, that you can't really let go, be yourself, and be in it and have a sense of permanence. Going back to Dr. John Bowlby in attachment theory, what we need as infants is a sense of security, a sense of safety, eye contact, skin contact, parents that mirror and attune to us, parents that put their children's needs before their own, parents who have boundaries, parents who are together and have a solid foundation of a relationship where the children can grow. So, what does that mean? That means a system gone right, where the parents are stable, not only with the children, but with each other, where there is structure, where there is parenting rules and roles. Let me just veer off on that for a second because there are different parenting styles, and there's the authoritarian where you're super strict, like three little bears and three chairs. The chair is way too hard and you're being smacked and yelled at and told what to do, and you don't know what the heck you're being told what to do for because nobody's really explaining you the rules. And then there's the authoritative parenting style where there are rules and you know what the boundaries are. And of course, you're going to push the boundaries, but you know that there are fair, and that's the operational word here, is fair repercussions to breaking family rules, and also discussion about about how to keep these boundaries and how to keep the family functioning so that everybody plays by certain rules and there's not a lot of chaos. And so then there is the laissez-faire, French term meaning do whatever you want kind of parenting, and that's probably the worst one. Oh, the authoritarian is pretty bad too, but the laissez-faire teaches the child nothing. They could do whatever they want, whenever they want, and then that results in spoiling, smothering, which is a pathway to forming narcissism. So, another pathway to forming narcissism is when you get everything but the right things, which is the empathy and the nourishment, but you get the toys, you get the money, you get, but at a big cost because you don't have to earn it. So you don't grow. So that's the problem with the system. Sounds good, just gimme, 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 but if I'm not earning what I'm getting, then I'm not really forced to grow. It's kind of like at the gym. If somebody just picked up my weights for me and did it for me, I could say that I was at the gym, but if they just put it in my hands and helped me lift the weights and took all the pressure off of my arms, I would never develop muscle. So, in a narcissistic system of spoiling, the child never develops muscle. And so, as a result, they become weak, they can become codependent on parents that are not in their best interest, obviously, And then because they're weak, they cannot launch and separate and individuate. So that's what it's like to grow up in a narcissistic system. There's no true autonomy because the parents don't really want you to grow because they want to keep you stunted. They want to keep you in a place of dependency so that they can basically utilize your resources, your maybe even your money, definitely your emotions, definitely your um, connection, definitely a hole in the soul filler for them. So you can understand that your light in a narcissistic family is going to be stolen. And this doesn't just stop at early childhood. They will continue to steal from you. They will steal your ambition. They will steal your dreams. They may even steal money from you because they need and they're entitled to your bank account. And this narcissistic system has no end in sight because, in essence, being in a narcissistic family is a vampiring experience. Now, how do you know that you've been abused? Well, look in the mirror. You look like you're kind of tired and your eyes are sunk into the back of your head and your body hurts and you can't really express yourself and you fear authentic expression because nobody's going to hear you or mirror you or validate your points. So, this is what it feels like to be narcissistically abused. And if it starts with the family, it's going to continue to pass into your relationships until you realize what the Freud is going on. So, let's go over to panel number 2 and look at your reactions because in the system, um, kind of trapped. I call it the double dungeon of darkness. And in this double dungeon of darkness, you cannot turn to your mother, can't turn to your father. Your cracked lens of perception is showing you that you're not important. That's a huge problem because you're not made to feel important. And so that usually you're not you're not really communicating properly because you're either breaking down in anxiety or you have to shut down to be safe, but the reactions are not balanced. So you could see the cracked glass, the cracked lens of perception, the emotions that are cracking you up and putting you out of balance. And then we come to number 3, which is where you encode everything. And in a narcissistically abusive relationship, there are all kinds of encodings that keep you trapped. So if you look at the DNA strand as a metaphor, it's kind of like you're woven into this psychological DNA cell, if you will, and the bonds that hold you together are toxic bonds, and you can see the toxic haze in the background. And if you look at the little people on this DNA ladder, you can see that they're not growing. They're just standing around and sitting around and lying around, but nobody's really evolving. It's too toxic to create an environment of evolution. And so people are just kind of stuck on this ladder, okay, this DNA ladder. And if we use metaphors to have the blue DNA strand, let's say, represent the father, and the pink one representing the mother, they bring with them their own multi generational DNA gone wrong. And now we've got 2 DNA strands wrapping and coiling around each other, forming a very, very bad system that is not sustainable. And that's another way that you know that you're in a narcissistically abusive family because everything's not sustainable. So there's no real consistency, or there may be a lot of changes. Maybe people are getting divorced. Maybe they're moving quite a bit. So that stable structure that's supposed to be stable is not really stable. So what happens here is, number one, you get encoded with these horrible core beliefs. The one that really pops into my mind is this core belief that you are not important to be number one, because of course the narcissistic parent or parents, they are number one, and you cannot possibly be in the limelight because they're sucking the air out of the room. So that's another way you can know that you're in a narcissistic relationship. You are not feeling anywhere near being number one. Now, they can manipulate your negative core beliefs and control you with further demeaning and devaluing and destroying your self esteem by calling you names, stupid, ugly, fat, uh, other core beliefs such as, I wish you were never born. That's pretty bottom of the barrel right there. Core beliefs that incorporate your powerlessness, that you'll never be able to be appreciated for who you are, only for what you do. And if you do for me, meaning the parents, then you'll be on the right side of the fence. And if you do for you, well, we're not interested in you. We're not really benefiting when you do something for you. So that's where the power and control comes in. So they may want you to marry the person that they want you to marry, or they want you to go to the school that they want you to go to, or they want you to take on hobbies that they feel are going to puff up their chest, or they want you to go into the family business so that they can benefit and you can be, on some kind of a paycheck, and hope that you'll be able to survive on whatever they decide to dole out to you. So if any of this is sounding familiar, please call in. I want to hear from you. It's very painful to be in a narcissistic family and to undergo narcissistic abuse, because it's subtle. It doesn't always look like what you think it should look like. You think of abuse, you think of being hit or sexually abused or name called, and not that that couldn't be a part of the narcissistic abuse. It's just that the subtlety is that it's a system of apathy. I don't care about you. You are not number one. You're only there for my convenience, and I'm enlisting you into my game of life versus enhancing your game of life and supporting the best of your best. That just doesn't exist. So I'd love to hear from you. Please call in. If you want, you can ask questions in the chat room. I'm happy to listen to it. But people get confused about this narcissistic abuse. They think there's something necessarily that has to be so manifest to say this is narcissistic abuse. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to look like something traumatic. It could be as subtle as control and manipulation and subtly degrading you and making sure that you're in the service of your family of origin. So I'll take a pause here and just remind everybody that I have a video called Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. I created this a few months ago. I'm really happy with it. I made some attempts at it and pretty much threw it in the editing garbage can. And this one I'm really, really proud of. It goes pretty deep in there. If you want to go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com, you'll see this particular video, and you will see a little button there called Learn More. Just press that button and you will get a free introduction. It's about 8 minutes long, of the actual video, so you can experience the the feel of it and the production quality and see if it's for you. Because some people don't want to go to therapy, and some people want to learn on their own. Of course, I always recommend to do this with a person so that you could talk about it. But some people don't want to do it. So now I have the whole thing there for you. It comes with a book, a journal, comes with other handouts like the Peaceful Healing Dialogue and the Wound Activation Prevention Plan and all kinds of other goodies so that you can learn and that you can heal. And if you don't ever want to see a therapist, well, you don't need to, because I will be your therapist via the video and guide you step by step through all the panels and give you a very strong psychoeducation that will help you identify your wounds, your reactions, your encodings, and how this narcissistic abuse will take you down into chaos defenses and breakdowns and then heal through it. Because it definitely requires a system. You can't just talk your way through this thing. You've got to know what you're doing and you have to have a plan. And this is the plan. And then for those of you who want to work with a therapist with this plan, you have options. So you could just call my clinic. I'll give you the numbers so that you don't have to look it up. It's 310-739-4491. 310-739-4491. You can go to my website, Psychological Healing Center, and then you can request a consultation, and either I or one of my team members will be happy to discuss this with you. But please, please, please do not leave this unhealed. Do not. Why? Because it's a lifetime of repetitive what the Freud means that we keep repeating things, just like Freud talked about the repetition principle. You don't need to go through it. Okay, so we have a question from the chat room. Why do we become the scapegoat punching bag in every relationship we go into, from family to friends and everyone we meet? No matter how much we heal, it's frustrating. Well, I would say that somebody who was your healer may not have caught all the patterns, because we do go into relationships with friends and family members that replicate it, because here's the deal. You're genuinely trying to heal yourself, and you can't heal yourself with somebody that doesn't feel like they hurt you. So you want to call in the herder, and that herder is now going to make 180 degrees, and you're going to feel so good. That's the dream, that's the wish, that the herder becomes the healer. And once you can, and I did a show on this, I did a couple of shows. Once you understand that you're going into the dynamics of being hurt yet again and again and again, not because you're stupid, not because you want to, but because you're desperately trying to undo. You're trying to undo the damage with the damager. And if you can't undo it with your parents, you're going to undo it with another damaging person, a friend, a spouse, anybody will do. Okay, so somebody hasn't really gotten down to it, and sometimes it takes a lot to get unraveled from these horrible core beliefs, these horrible patterns, and to, quite frankly, realize that the cause of these dysfunctional what the Freud patterns lies in the original blueprint. That's got to be dismantled. So let me get into that. It's important. You can't just do therapy and leave things the way they are. It's got to be dismantled, meaning that whatever blueprint you have doesn't work for you. It only brought you chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So let's put those panels up. So if something is not built correctly, guaranteed, panels 4, 5, and 6, you will fall. The house of cards will fall. The system will fall. And then you'll get into defense mechanisms. Maybe your defense mechanism will be to use drugs to avoid the pain, or to um, or to glom on to the person that you're in love with, and not let go. Maybe you can't let go because it's too painful, and then whatever you do turns into some kind of a breakdown, because it's not going to break through for you unless you have a person or a system that's going to help orchestrate this breakthrough, which includes letting out psychological poison that has kept you stuck. I hope that's a long answer and a thorough answer to your question. Give me maybe a thumbs up signal that you got what I was trying to say, and then we'll move on. Any other questions in the chat room? Let's see. Uh, okay, have other questions. Thanks for the questions, and please call in because it's so much more lively and thorough when I can talk to you. Okay, so in an extended family setup like what we have in the Asian countries, there are so many relatives who would get involved in your life. How do we deal with perfectionists in the family? That's a great question, because now we're getting into cultural wounds. So you're saying that your business is everyone's business, and so particularly in cultures that are very family oriented, there's a level of enmeshment, and some of it is good because truly Asian families can really take care of each other multi-generationally, compared to the American family where mommy and daddy are shuffled into the old age home when they get too old. And sometimes that's appropriate, of course, because they need a higher level of care. But usually in specific cultures, that doesn't happen. So I think the enmeshment is about keeping the family unit somewhat balanced and strong, but then, there's a yin and yang to everything. So let me see the question again. I want to make sure I didn't sidetrack here. So, okay. There's so many relatives who would get involved in your life. How do we deal with perfectionists in the family? So it seems like the family people, members, haven't really separated and individuated, because in the Asian culture, it's possible that the family is more important than the individual, and the philosophy is more important than individual choices. And there's got to be some sort of a survival mechanism for why it's so important to be a unit. So everybody's going to pick on everyone. There's going to be a lot of perfectionism because they want to keep the entire structure alive. So then everyone puts their 2 cents in on how it's going to be. And as you can tell, not much separation and individuation. Maybe it also has to do with economics, in that money or resources could be scarce. And so it's important to live together to save money, or eat together to save money, or use group resources to save strength and time, and so on. And so when everyone is pulling together like that, you bet they're going to be in each other's face and in each other's business, because again, it's a system. And if anyone gets too out of whack with the system, then that system is going to go down. So everybody's going to be in everybody's business to keep the system going, kind of like a company. We need everyone to pull weight and be on the same page, and be on corporate time and corporate policies and so on. So I hope that answered the question. Okay, so can you see what it's like to be in this narcissistic family? Not good. And I want to get into the the soma, which is the body, because the body keeps the score, which is the title of a book by Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who does a lot of writing and somatic work and talks about how our bodies internalize these narcissistic wounds and how we through neglect and abuse and being marginalized into feeling that we're some kind of an object and we're never going to be number one and we have to work really hard just to get some breadcrumbs. And if we don't work really hard to get breadcrumbs, then we're kicked to the curb because we're not fulfilling the narcissistic um, system here. So you can see how all of this can really take a hit on the somatic level. So another way that you could tell that you're in a narcissistically abusive relationship, why don't you just check in with how do you feel? Do you have a headache? Do you have a backache? Do your jaws hurt? Are you clenching your teeth? Are you developing bad habits to numb your pain, which then cause other ailments? You drinking too much? Do you have to be on psychiatric um, pills, so on, to just put yourself together? Do you have to overeat just to get away and numb the pain? So you see, this is all interconnected. And so when you're not feeling well, you're going to try to do things to feel better. And the feel better things may not be life enhancing, they might actually be tearing you down and wearing you down. So that's a question for you. How do you feel? I know people who have been told that their autoimmune system is messed up because of the stress. I have had patients who have suffered from cancer because, again, the mind and the body are connected. And when we're not in balance, we're not in peace, our body will take the hit. And just to kind of prove my point here, how much so the body and the mind are interconnected. Um, I like to use the example of a lemon. So I want you to imagine a lemon, okay? Now, you're cutting open the lemon, all right? Taking the lemon, you're squeezing it, opening your mouth, you're actually lifting your tongue, and you're squeezing it under your tongue. Check your mouth. What's going on? Well, I'm salivating more. Why am I salivating? I mean, thank you. Is there a, now I'm salivating even more. Thanks a lot. All right. So why am I salivating? I didn't say that I put lemon juice in my mouth. I said, imagine a lemon. It's an imaginary lemon. Tony, thank you. We got the picture of the lemon. Okay. Mind body is connected. So you imagine the lemon, you see a picture of a lemon, and it automatically triggers physiological response, in this case, salivation. Okay? You could maybe even get some sense memory going. Oh, the bitterness. The right. Your mouth puckers up. But how is it possible to have a physical reaction to an imaginary lemon? So now this is what it looks like to be in a narcissistically abusive relationship. Maybe the person isn't there abusing you 24/7. However, they've already set you up for horrible core beliefs. You're already in trauma because you're afraid that you have to walk on eggshells, or they're going to leave you, or they're going to do something like use your emotions or your finances. And so you're living in this hellhole and you're being triggered, and then your body goes into spasm and your back is out of joint and your jaws clench and your cells rebel and you get inflamed, and that's what inflammatory diseases are about. An autoimmune system gets whacked out, and then your hormones get whacked out, and all of your systems, because we're physical beings, we're not just psychological beings. So our systems get whacked out of joint, and then we feel ill at ease, and then it puts us in a state of dis-ease, which then creates literally disease. Okay, so do you see how that works? It's another system gone wrong that impacts our physicality. So that's another way we know that we're in an abusive relationship. We don't feel good. Now, another way that I haven't really concentrated that much on, but maybe I should do more shows around it, is our dream material. So we may dream things like being overwhelmed by a tornado or a hurricane, or being trapped in an elevator, or being at the mercy of a big bad wolf or witch, or a snake. Okay, again, the powerlessness. Okay, so I just want you to get the sense of how this system gone wrong can really wreak havoc on the mind, body, soul. And now we've got chaos. Our defenses are breaking down. Not only are they breaking down, but they're making us even sicker. The drugs, sex, and rock and roll stop working, and nothing's shielding us from the ultimate breakdown. And then when we do break down, we end up, um, you know, hopefully in therapy, trying to break through. And sometimes breakdowns are they're very dark and ugly. Some people create an implosion or suicide. Okay, that could be a pathway to suicide. So if you are suicidal and you're trying to escape the system, but you feel trapped in the system, you can't get out, well, that's one way out. I don't recommend it. It's pretty much of a final solution. Or you get so angry that you start projecting your anger outside. And on that other side of suicide is homicide, killing other people, and just letting it all out in a very, very aggressive way. So, like I like to say to my patients, don't implode, don't explode, unload and process your feelings. But in a narcissistically abusive relationship, feelings are not welcome. If they're not their feelings, they're definitely not welcome. If you try to bring your own feelings into it, unseen, unheard, unmirrored, everything, you just don't count. You're not important. You're basically not there in the eyes of the narcissist. So I hope you guys are getting the picture of what it's like to be in a narcissistic, abusive relationship. Again, I want to bring back my point about healing, how important it is to heal your childhood wounds. Because if you don't, you're stuck in that double dungeon of darkness. And we have another question. Okay, how does one sibling in the family become a narcissist and another one be a complete opposite when they grew up in the same household? Great question. I'm asked this all the time. You're confused. A lot of people are confused. So I'm going to tell you that even though it is the same household, the projections are different. The experiences are different. So let's say we have a boy, okay, and the boy looks just like the woman's ex-husband. Well, that might trigger her to treat the little boy like scum, because she doesn't want to be reminded of her ex-husband. So he may end up being the scapegoat, and she might project all her pain upon him. So maybe she also has a little girl, and that little girl reminds her of her fragile self. So that little girl is going to get extra special attention and extra special gifts and so on. And so family dynamics, they are interesting. They're definitely not always egalitarian. So just because a mother has three children, it doesn't mean that the three children are all going to get the same goodies. And then, of course, Thomas and Chess, who did a lot of work on traits, personality traits that we're born with, people are born with different traits. So one baby may cry a lot and irritate the mother, and maybe another baby refuses to take in the breast milk, and the narcissistic mother is insulted that the baby won't try harder. So, and then they get to resent the baby for not taking of their breast milk, or maybe stage of life. Maybe one baby was born to a mother who was in a nice, secure place in her life and she had money and support, and another child was born at a time where she was out of a job and she was going through a divorce and she was being abused by somebody, okay, specifically in her uh, immediate environment. So all of these things factor in. So there's no such thing as the same upbringing. It's always different. I hope I answered that question. Give me a sign that I answered your question, please. Well, I guess you guys are thinking and your wheels are turning as they should be. And so now ask yourself these questions. Let's review. Is your body hurting? Are you feeling marginalized? Do you feel stuck in a dysfunctional relationship? Are you being gaslit, meaning made to go crazy? Do you feel like you're not important to be number one? Are you, quote, in love with the narcissist to the point where you have given up major parts of yourself and have gained nothing in return? Do you feel used as an object, a sexual object, or a financial object? Or do you feel like you're some parent's little husband or wife? Are you little Cinderella or Cinderfella cleaning up the house and being stored in the cellar, so to speak? Okay, so these are signs. Are you sick? Are you physically sick? Headache, backache, tension, fibromyalgia, cancer? I'm not saying that everything has to do with physicality, but I'm believing more and more that the mind is so profoundly connected to the body that when we are in dis-ease, when we're not as at ease, that dis-ease will turn against us and we will begin to form disease. Also, are you suicidal? Are you so depressed that you're shutting down and isolating? Are you so angry that you feel like killing somebody or bullying somebody or projecting all of your bad, out of control feelings onto other innocent people who don't deserve the wrath? So these are some signs, and take them seriously. Don't gloss over them. Don't just kick them to the curb and say, well, I'll get over it. I'll do something positive in my life, because people do try to do positive things in their life, but if core beliefs and patterns keep them stuck, it's hard to move forward when you've got all the shadows in the way of your progress. Are there any more questions here? Anybody else want to ask away, call in? Would love to hear from you, obviously. Preferred over chat room questions, because I'm a talker.
It looks like a lot of people are asking chat questions, and we want to thank a lot of new listeners, maybe because of the new time. So we want to thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. So every Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific time and 7 o'clock Eastern. So please let everybody know that Dr. Judy has changed her time slot. But before we move on, it's not really a question, and I'm curious what your thoughts. Is somebody says this: I have repeated dreams of my teeth falling out, and I was the scapegoat. What is your take on people's dreams? You know, because that's part of the psyche of what you're going through. Of when people
Well,
are going through dreams and they're feeling a scapegoat as a scapegoat.
first of all, Tony, thank you very much for your comments. You've been a wonderful host. Tony is not a narcissist. I'm
Aw,
sure
thank you.
he's not. Because he's always so helpful and kind, and definitely has shown how much he's got my best interest and other people's best interest at heart. And with people like Tony, you feel safe. You can grow. You can think. You can screw up and make mistakes and not think that something bad is going to happen. It'll be fixed. Um, okay, so back to now I lost the question. What was the question?
Sarah in the chat room just says, "I've had repeated dreams of my teeth falling out, and I was the scapegoat." So I'm
Okay,
just
all right.
curious what
So
your thoughts.
let me say that Freud thought that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, and I think that's so. Recently, I read something that said an unanalyzed dream is like an unopened letter. Our dreams are talking to us. So I'm going to just free associate to your dream, and I encourage you to do it because when I think about teeth falling out, I think about weak powerlessness. Okay. So, you think, I've got power. I'm going to bite into this problem. I'm going to, biting, if you look at the primitive um, symbol of biting is that you can bite back. Okay, you can fight back, teeth and fighting, and animal with fangs. Okay, so if your teeth are falling out and you've been scapegoated, then I think perhaps, and again, you would be best at interpreting your own dreams. I'm just going to give you some hints about possibilities. Perhaps you're feeling powerless. Perhaps you're feeling that you have no bite. Perhaps you feel like nobody's going to take you seriously. Um, and because you're being scapegoated, you can't fight back because everybody is bullying you in essence. And so um, you're just a victim. And some toothless person is metaphorically more likely to be a victim because they can't bite back. So tell me if that makes intuitive sense to you, whoever asked that question.
Her name's Sarah, so we'll just hopefully get a response from her.
Yeah. And again, I'm giving you a direction to go in terms of analyzing your dreams, but only you can really analyze your own because it might bring up different associations for you. But definitely, it leaves me with a sense of toothless, powerlessness. Scapegoating is a form of taking out um, other people's issues on you. So, definitely making you feel like you don't have a lot of say so, you don't have a lot of power in the system. So, if that feels intuitively right, um, comment below.
And she said, "Yes, that does make sense." She said, "Thank you."
You're very, very welcome. So, I want everybody to learn how to think like a shrink. I have a basic course in my map that um, call me about it and we can discuss it. It's called the 9-panel mind map system to healing, and it's kind of like course 101, and then healing from narcissistic abuse gets a little bit deeper and into the wound of apathy and how to heal specifically through the wounds of being in a narcissistic system. So I wanted everybody to start to think like a shrink and learn and self analyze. And you don't have to do it alone. If you don't want to do just the video, well, we could package it so that you do video and a few sessions with a therapist, or the video and all of the sessions with a therapist, and we'll try to make it as budget friendly as humanly possible for you. The main thing is, don't just be a scapegoat, don't just be a victim, don't let your unconscious forces rule you, and do make them conscious so that you could be the cause. Because when you're conscious, you could be the cause. When you're unconscious, you're at the effect of, because you don't know. You're just sort of living in another person's schema, or their world, because it's not your world. A narcissist doesn't allow you to have a world. It's their world, it's their rules, they're the boss. So you don't want to live with the effect of this. So this is a pathway to breaking free, if you will, a pathway to getting out of psychological prison, and a pathway to getting your self-esteem back, so you don't have to walk around and believe all the horrible things that you've been told or encoded with. Things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not special, I'll never be number one, I'm stupid, fat, ugly, whatever it is that you encoded there. Remember, you weren't born that way, you were told that way. And then you became a believer in what you were told. And the mind map is designed to decode all of the lies and the misperceptions and misconceptions, so that you could break free from these horrible negative encodings, and again, be the cause of better encodings and be the cause of a better part two of your life. So if there are no other questions, are there any other questions?
No other questions or calls.
Okay, well, I really appreciate you joining in. I hope this is a good time for everyone, and hopefully I'm reaching brand new people who have never heard about me, and hopefully you understand that therapy without a system is just not as productive, because you're not learning. And so therapy has to be combined with psychoeducation. And that's why I use the mind map, and that's why I have the book. Oh, the book. You're all welcome to a free PDF copy of the book. Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. I think there it is. Thank you. Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. You could pick it up at Amazon. You can also email the clinic and request a free download of it. It'll start connecting the dots, and then if you want to take it one step further, you can work with a therapist and really dig in and start to heal. So I want to thank everyone for joining in, and I will see you back here 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Good night, everyone.